Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a truly fantastic guest. She is one of the most successful, brightest, and best people here in our local business community. She is a great mom, a great wife, just a great all-around person, and someone that I just love getting to know, and I can't wait to share our guests with you. So with no further ado, Amanda Prokop Germany, welcome to the show. How are you, Amanda?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. And why don't we start off with you just telling our guests a little bit about yourself and your background?
I am originally from Albany, Louisiana. I graduated in 1997. I graduated ninth in my class. And
nice, top 10. Congrats.
Yeah, top 10 of Albany. So it was great experience there, and decided to go to Southeastern and stay in Hammond for a little while.
And so you mentioned being in Albany. That's the Hornets, is that right?
That is right.
I think you're the second Albany Hornet in the last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. So it's Albany month here at Ponchatoula Live. I'm very glad that we have recruited you here to town. So clearly you did great in high school. You're a top 10 student. You go to Southeastern. Tell us what that was like. You know, what were you into in school? What did you study? How'd you do? You know, what was your experience like at Southeastern?
So I started my career working with my grandfather, Jules Prokop, in downtown Hammond. He had a CPA firm, and I decided to go into accounting whenever I joined school.
Okay.
And, at
now,
first,
he was a big time CPA. What he represented a lot of the biggest and best businesses in Hammond. Is that right?
He did. He was very prominent in the area, and I had a lot of positive feedback about his knowledge of the financial world, and that really impressed me as a growing up as a child. So I wanted to do something similar, and that's what pushed me into the accounting world is his legacy. So
yeah,
I wanted to follow.
Well, what was he like to work for? I mean, was that cool going to work for your grandpa at a young age, or was he harder on you than everybody else because you were his kin? What was the experience like?
He was pretty strict on everybody. He made us all do our part, so which is
right.
Good. So that was all right. I was young, so I had limited fussing from grandfather, I'm sure, but it was a good experience in that office.
I'm impressed that you would kind of venture into your quote unquote real career, early, because I know for me, I look back and I'm like, thank God I wasn't working at law firms when I was a college student, because I was a bit of a ne'er-do-well, and I'm kind of glad I can kind of separate my business reputation from my college reputation. So, you jumped straight into the fire.
When you're 18, you really don't know what you want to do in life. So you
just have to
start somewhere. True. So I just started somewhere. And finally, when I got into my actual career at Southeastern, I took a finance class, and I just fell in love with finance. One of my teachers was Dr. Cudd at Southeastern, and he taught us about the stock world and the bond world, and it just really impressed me, and that intrigued me greatly, and I wanted to expand on that knowledge for sure.
Neat. Well, so you found a mentor in finance, and I guess you shift gears from accounting to finance.
I did.
You mentioned you love finance. You know, what was it you loved about that world and about that area of business?
It's just the stock market is something that is so vast and just intriguing. I just wanted to understand it, and that's something that to this day I still try to understand it. It's just very complicated in the financial world. So I mean, it's a lot of information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's neat. It's so complex, right? You look at folks like Warren Buffett, who have been more successful at it than anybody, but he's still a forever learner, right? I mean, I don't think even Warren Buffett would say he's mastered the stock market. There's always more to learn, you know.
That's right.
Even the best like him make mistakes. So it's got to be really tough and competitive as a field. Now, I know you didn't stop at the bachelor's level of college. You went on to get your master's. You know, can you tell us a little bit about that and what that program was like?
So whenever I was out of school, and Southeastern announced that they were going to start a brand new MBA program at Southeastern, so I decided to join the MBA program at Southeastern, and I was in the first MBA class that Southeastern graduated, and we graduated in 2006. So that was a little small knit group of professionals in the Hammond area, and that was nice. We got to learn together.
kind of a trailblazer there. Do you keep in touch with any of your old grad school classmates? Or
John Ignatius was actually one of my classmates, and he is a real estate agent. And
yeah, very successful, great guy. He's a friend
yes,
of mine. I like John a lot.
we still see each other.
Yeah, cool, very cool. Well, speaking of real estate, I mean, you now are, among the most successful real estate mortgage lenders in our area in the whole state of Louisiana, really. How did you end up getting into the realm, specific to finance of mortgage lending and that kind of stuff?
Okay, so I graduated from college in 2002, and if you remember, in September of 2001, there was 9/11, and so I graduated right after 9/11 in the finance world. And at that time, the finance industry was tough. There was lots of people making changes. There was it was difficult to find your route at that time. And I started off in the insurance world. I was doing claim adjusting for insurance, and just tried different areas of finance till I went door to door in Hammond trying to, with a resume. I know that's unheard of now, but I went door to door. And I walked into.
They'd run you off these days. Half the doors are locked with COVID.
They go online. But I walked into the door of Ladder and Bloom, and I met the Galaforos, and they gave me a chance, and they put me in their mortgage division in the Ladder and Bloom office, and I was there for several years until I moved to a bank branch later.
Yeah. Well, those guys have been super successful, so I'm sure that was a great kind of first glimpse of the real estate world.
It was,
because they seem to know it really well. And so tell us, so obviously you're now still in bank mortgage lender. Tell us about your current position and kind of where you are and what you do.
I am the Hammond Vice President of Mortgage Lending for Hammond Branch. We have several people on our team. You may have heard of Hillary Rochek that's on our team. She is also with our bank. And we do tons of things here. We have Chantel Anderson and Jeannie Culbertson all out of our bank, and another Jack Germany, which is a junior loan officer, that we are all doing mortgages and learning what we can to help others.
So you're not even the only Germany in the office. Does that get confusing over there?
Yeah, they all think he's my husband, but he's not. He's actually my husband's cousin, but he's
well. So speaking of your husband, tell us about Dyson and how you guys met. And this show, people love to hear a good love story. So tell us about that.
So Dyson and I originally met around 2001, and he moved away for a little bit to go to Houston, and I moved away after college, and we wound up coming back to Hammond and rerunning into each other in 2004, and it was just, we were together from that moment. So we have been dating off for all these years, and we finally got married in 2013.
Oh, that's exciting. So, and Dyson, I believe, also works in the realm of finance and studied business. Is that right? Where you guys?
He does. He also was a finance major from Southeastern, and we wound up graduating Southeastern together. And he is in corporate finance, so it's a totally different world than what I do. We do totally different things in the same little finance circle.
Yeah. So are you guys talking finance at home when you get home, or are you both just let's talk about our baby girl and
me talk about it more, but no, we don't want to talk finance at home. We'll talk about our own finances here or there, but
yeah, of course, yeah. No, I get it. My wife will often feel compelled to tell me about her day, and I love to listen and hear about it. It's much more interesting than mine usually. But I have usually zero interest in talking about what I did that day at work. Yeah. Sometimes you just need to check out and, watch an episode of Yellowstone or whatever and just do something totally different. But I didn't know to what extent the, the finance nerd brain, if it ever shuts off. Not to call you a nerd, but just,
No, that's okay. We make spreadsheets. We have spreadsheets where we share finances and stuff together. So we are pretty nerdy in that aspect. we are, two peas in a pod. We'll email back and forth some nerdy stuff.
So you guys get married in 2013, and now I know you've got this beautiful baby girl who's, in between my two kids. I've got this kindergartner and this 3-year-old, and you've got a pre-K daughter. So would you mind telling us a little bit about her and what motherhood's meant to you?
We were finally blessed with a little baby girl in 2012, and I'm sorry, 2016, and
Mm-hmm.
she is now 5 years old. She is so sweet. Of course, we're very biased of her,
Right.
as we should be. But she's wonderful. She makes life
Well, no,
fun.
I think she's objectively sweet and wonderful. I verified this. I coach basketball with your next door
Uh-huh.
neighbors, so we have the lay of the land out there at the Germany house. And yeah, the word on the street is she's a pretty great girl. So good job there.
Thank you.
Clearly, you are the modern kind of superwoman working mom. I mean, you kicking butt as a professional. You and Dyson have this great marriage. Your daughter's doing well. What's that like as a challenge? Because I do think the challenge is different for moms than dads in the workforce, and probably unfairly so sometimes. But what's been your experience, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think that I have to allot time. Like, I have to require time for family. It's kind of like scheduling it to make sure that I am spending enough, because my job can consume me, especially the last couple of years with the refinance boom happening.
Right.
And it did try to consume me at times, but I would allot time where this is off limits. I need this family time where I make sure that my daughter's getting, as much mom time as she needs and deserves. So,
Yeah.
and husband too. You just have to block off those times and make sure that you're getting everything done, because
Yeah. Now, is that something you knew going in because you had good advice from family, friends,
well,
etc., or on
so
the job?
Cindy Crega, that I worked with for many years, told me
Yeah.
one day that I would set boundaries, and I would create boundaries for myself where I would not work myself to death. And she was right. And I've taken her advice now, and we definitely followed her example. And she was a great mentor, and I can't be more pleased with her knowledge that she shared with me over the years. So, yep.
Yeah, Cindy's great. I think she's really, really well respected for good reason, right? I mean, she's just a
Right.
wonderful person.
She is.
Um,
She's
what
still with
is
the bank, by the way. She can't really retire.
right? Well, I mean, you mentioned how hectic the last few years with these historically great interest rates have been. What's a day in the life like for a mortgage loan officer, and if you would, maybe a little before and after, like the good old days when things were kind of quote unquote normal and slow, then the super hectic refi era where rates plummet and everybody needs a new loan,
Right.
to, the chaos of COVID and everything we have going on now. What's that been like from your perspective as a loan officer?
So before the COVID, I would meet with a client. They would sometimes, most of the time, come into my office and sit down, and we would spread everything out across the desk and look at numbers. And I would build spreadsheets. I'm a big Excel person. I will build different options on spreadsheets, and it's not that everybody's scenario is the same answers. There's not always the same right choice for everyone. So you have to spread out their scenario and their life goals and figure out, what's the best option. And we had a lot of time to spend with our clients before to do that. And with the refis, we were just trying to get everyone refinanced so that they could, take advantage of those rates, because there was only a
Hmm.
small window that those rates were going to be in place. So it
Right.
was a little bit more challenging trying to give my all to every customer over the
Yeah,
last 4
I
years.
bet. So let's let you, from the consumer perspective, say you've got somebody, and folks, I'll go ahead, full disclosure here. My wife and I are working with Amanda. Okay. We're in the process of buying a home, and she's great. And so, look, I'm no big, great purchaser of properties. So I'm no expert on it by any sense. My mom was a mortgage lender when I was a kid. So I know how stressful that job can be, because she would come home crying sometime when people wouldn't get approved or a deal wouldn't go through, and her heart would get broken. But getting back to the actual consumer. So I'm sure folks watching, some of them may want to buy their first home. Some of them may be looking to refinance. Some may be looking to buy an investment property, whatever. But like, what can they do to streamline the process for like an optimal experience? Part of it in what can they do to make your life easier so you can get the loan process quicker. But what advice would you give to folks who are thinking about needing a mortgage
Yes.
loan?
So in today's world, we are going to pull government reports on pretty much every single thing that you're providing us. So there is, in the old world, there were times that we may not find all your stuff. So it is best if your lender has everything that possibly could come up during the process from the very first second, so that we can decide how to structure around those things. And a lot of challenges that we have is people think that things are not important to disclose, but they are. The government wants to see it all. They have set these very precise guidelines. So my best advice is to give pay stubs, give tax returns, give W-2s from the very first second, so that everybody can be on the same page. That makes it easier.
And there's really no reason you can't get all those ducks in a row before we even make the first call to you, because I think this house Brandy and I are buying, this is only the second time I've ever bought a house. The first time was 20 years ago in law school. And back then it was like, everybody approved, no money down. It was a different era, right? But now we're post, housing bubble explosions, and a lot of reforms are in place and all. So I guess what you're telling us here is, get your ducks in a row as early as possible, because the government's going to kind of require you lenders
to verify
get that stuff and verify everything. Yes. The days of send me a letter from somebody saying that you're going to make this one day and, speculative income are kind of long gone. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. We're ordering all this documentation from the IRS directly. So we need it all. And if you give it to us up front, we can help you fix things before underwriting sees it. But once underwriting sees it, things are, they've seen it. So
right.
We can help you, structure as best as we can.
Well, speaking of your career here, John Landry has piped in here to say that Amanda is the best, and she's certainly great at what she does. John, thank you for watching, for sharing that comment. And folks, if you are watching us live, we do have the ability to put your comment here up on the screen, share what you've got to say. So feel free, if you've got a question for Amanda, a question for me, or just something nice to say like John did, feel free to touch base. We are here with Amanda Prokop Germany. We're talking about her career in mortgage lending. She's been kind enough to share her personal background too, from growing up in Albany to going to school at Southeastern, where she met her husband Dyson, to moving here to Ponchatoula, where they're now raising their beautiful little girl. Why don't I ask you this? I mean, clearly you didn't grow up in a faraway land. Albany's right up the street. But, look, when I was in school a few years ahead of you, Albany and Ponchatoula, that was the rivalry. I mean, those are the boys we went to go fight at the Taco Bell parking lot back in the 90s.
We weren't allowed to date Ponchatoula boys when we were in high school. That was just an off-limits thing.
Yeah.
Y'all were all terrible.
Yeah, well, hey, my wife would probably tell you that you were taught right. Nobody shared that message with her up in Independence. But how did you end up down here? I mean, what's the story on kind of why Ponchatoula, and why you and Dyson have decided to not just invest your family fortune on building that beautiful big house you'll have, but to choosing here as opposed to anywhere else? Because with your educations, y'all could work anywhere in the world, you could live anywhere in the world, but you've chosen to be here in Ponchatoula. So it kind of begs the question of why.
It's the people. It's definitely the people. So in 2006, we bought our first home. And again, we did a no-doc program back then and just signed, not proving anything. But anyway, we bought our first home on 8th Street in Ponchatoula, right behind me. And we actually met a neighbor, Carrie Fisher-Williams. She was our neighbor.
Carrie and I went to high school together. Great gal. Yeah, I love Carrie. She's awesome. Yeah, so we were kind of neighbors. I was on 8th Street, so just a few blocks away.
Right.
Yeah.
So she introduced us to a ton of people in town, and we just fell in love with everyone. I mean, everyone's just so nice, and it's very family here. Everyone is not what they told me in high school. So y'all are not bad people.
Right.
But it's really community. Everyone here is a friend, and I feel like they're family.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think the people are what make this place so special. And it's cool to hear that. Of course, I'm biased. I grew up here. My family moved here in the 1890s. So we don't know anything else. But you kind of made the conscious choice to come here.
Yeah.
We've had a few other folks here chime in, so I want to share their comments. Chris Ship says Amanda is awesome. So Chris.
Yes, that's my lovely father. Yes. I was blessed with 2 sets of parents. That's one
Wonderful, Chris.
my
You great dad, man. Thanks for tuning in. And of course, you're right. Patricia Vicknair chiming back, I think, to the great advice you were given about the process earlier. So she says that's good to know. Chantel Anderson says that she might be biased, but she also agrees, Chris, that Amanda's pretty awesome.
Chantel also works. She is my loan partner. She is part of my team, so I also think Chantel is amazing.
So maybe she's biased, but she also knows better than anybody what kind of work you do, right? So I mean, I don't know whether my lawyers, paralegals, and other colleagues are saying I'm awesome when I'm not around. So
yes, she can say nothing, then we'd know how she felt, right?
Exactly. And another comment here. So John Landry comments again to say, talk about credit scores. So what can you tell our viewers about credit scores and their impact on the loan process?
So one of the benefits Gulf Coast Bank gives us as loan officers is we have something called a credit wizard. So if you have some credit challenges, as everybody does at some point in their life, then we can help you figure out how best to fix it or to change things. So if you have anything on there that you need someone to look at, just give us a call and we can definitely give you some advice on how to do it. And we have systems in place that tell us exactly what to do with the 3 bureaus. As far as credit scores are, with COVID, things had tightened up a good bit, but they've all loosened back up. Gulf Coast Bank is allowing down to 600 credit scores again. So, and we will help you if possible to boost that a little bit so we can improve the rate. But yeah, we look at credit all day, so we kind of know what to do to manipulate it if we can.
Yeah, so it's always going to be a factor in the loan process, but it sounds like you guys have tools in place to help people. Because look, nobody's perfect, and I'm certainly not. No credit is perfect, and can help you make the best of your situation, whatever it may be.
That's right.
We've got another user here who says, "Hey everyone, girlfriends empowered." I don't know what girlfriends. It doesn't. For some reason, when I read this, it says Facebook user. Maybe they haven't, given sharing.
Is that one of my husband's fake accounts?
It might be. Dyson, you got to get better at your burner account game if that is you. But girlfriends empowered, whatever that is.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Folks, we're here with Amanda. She's talking about, all kinds of great stuff from credit and otherwise. But, let's talk a little bit about, your family life, because, we're talking about, what the challenges as a working mom, but, what do you think has been kind of the secret to your success? You talk about boundaries, setting, up aside time for your husband, for your daughter. What else do you think has been kind of the secret sauce? Or maybe something from like something your husband does, but y'all do seem to have such a happy little family. What else do you think goes into that? What other tips would you give to folks who kind of want to do it right and maybe a few years behind you on that journey, or maybe you're just getting started?
Well, I don't know if I have all the answers here. So we doing the best that we can to be the best family we can, and we like to take trips a lot and get away and spend time with it just us or with friends, so that we don't let our jobs consume us too much.
You like to travel? Where do y'all go?
So we really like the beach. Our daughter loves sand. I know some kids really hate sand, but she loves it.
Yeah, so my boys do too.
Quite a bit. And Bay St. Louis, we enjoyed that little community
cool.
as well.
Yeah, go. Yeah. So yeah, being on the water, that'll take the edge off for sure. That'll lower the blood pressure, and
that's right. My husband just recently purchased a fishing camp in Dulac, so we have a new adventure.
Oh, nice! Very cool. Yeah,
we gotta.
That's great.
Get that going.
Yeah. We grew up with a camp down in Manchac, and it was just the best. I mean, it doesn't even matter if it's, crazy stories that seem like bad days, boats breaking down, the fish that got away, et cetera, cleaning up after hurricanes, you look back on all that. It's so, so fondly, because whatever's happening there, what do they say? A bad day fishing beats a good day at the office.
That's right. Yep.
It's important to get away. Well, thanks for sharing that. And, you say you don't have all the answers. Nobody does, but I always like to press people like you, that I admire, because I feel like everybody's got a different nugget and a different perspective kind of on, what's working. Let me ask you this about your job, because I mentioned earlier when my mom was a mortgage lender. Now, of course, I'm looking through the lens of the high school's kid who's maybe hoping to get a ride here or permission to do that or whatever. And, we're scared when mom gets off at 4:30 that she's going to walk in the door crying because some, little young couple couldn't get their dream house or whatever. But, I guess my question is kind of, what do you see in your line of work that kind of breaks your heart? I mean, are there things that make you particularly bummed, sad, upset,
Yes, well, the whole denial process is a very intense thing. Meanness, people who are mean for reasons that are not in control. There's there's a lot of things that the government dictates to us now that we don't really have control of, and we do get a lot of upset people at things that are just trying to follow the government guidelines and help. So it's
so
that
people kind of unfairly take that out on you and Chantel and your team, because you've got to be the deliverer of bad news. No, I can't lend you this money, but really it's maybe Uncle Sam's regulation or an underwriter's decision, not you.
That's right.
Yeah,
it is. We have to relay all of that bad news, so we get to hear the sorrows or the disappointment and the anger sometimes that they don't agree. But, we're not able to make the rules change. We have to follow them just to say.
Yeah. Well, I see here our friend and future guest on the show, Mandy Franks Braywick, says, the denial for clients is so trying. It's so hard to become homeowners. And of course, she sees it from the real estate agent, the realtor perspective. But speaking of people that love the beach, I know that the Franks gang has a great beach place. Mandy, thanks for tuning in. I'm looking forward to your interview. And, of course, I grew up, her brother and my brother were good buddies, lifelong friends, just a great family. But I just remember that well from being a kid. I mean, you can imagine how little you care as a teenage boy about the ins and outs of mortgage lending or even mom's job in general. I'm not going to front, but I do remember its profound effect on her, just like she was just so saddened to see, folks get denied sometimes. And like you say, sometimes it's through no fault of their own, but there's a process there in place. Yeah. What is it you love about the job? I mean, what is it when you come home and it's like you just want to high five Dyson at the end of a great day?
I love the numbers. Again, I'm a nerd. Yeah. I love the numbers. I love figuring the numbers, and I love when I have time to just sit down and really calculate people's finances and try to figure out what's going to be best for them. That's fun for me. So. Yeah.
So you may have chosen not to become an accountant like your grandfather.
I know, but
and finance, of course, is a whole different application of numbers. But you still have some of him in your heart, I guess.
And the funny thing is, I really like tax returns. I know that people
really. Oh my God! Wait a second, I've never heard that before.
And I do like tax law, and I do try to keep up with it. I mean, that was kind of at some point I'd consider going into tax law, but. Anyway, I'm again nerd.
Well, I really like tax law. I really like tax returns. I don't think we'll ever hear that again here on Ponchatoula Live. That's certainly the first time we've heard it. I would bet that may be the last.
It's really interesting how different everyone's tax structure is. It's very intriguing to me because everyone's CPAs are very knowledgeable, and they do things a little different, and I enjoy seeing the different ways that it's structured. So that's interesting.
Well, so speaking of that, so I mean, you make a good point. I mean, you could have two different, let's say, wealthy, mortgage applicants come in your office. You get to see all of their nooks and crannies because we have to provide all this. And you're right, you may see two very different tax strategies. I mean, it could be Dr. A, Dr. B, same income from North Oaks, two very different applications for how to, apply that. Yep. And I would imagine, having done this for as long as you have, being such a, spreadsheet driven, numbers driven, person, that you pick things up that perhaps you and Dyson use in your own personal financial, like tricks of the trade. Am I onto something there? Is there any truth to that?
Well, I can't really say that out loud because I can't be stealing people's secrets. But yes, of course, I try to mimic.
I don't mean stealing proprietary information. I just mean, hey, that's a good idea. The
Right.
concept of investing money this way versus that.
I'm like, why are they doing it this way and not the way that I've seen it in the past? And then I'll start digging around in tax law and trying to figure it out and try to understand why on my free time.
So your free time, so your hobby is spreadsheets and personal finance. I know you have other hobbies like gardening. Tell us about that. What tell us about your passion for gardening or anything else you might be into.
I want to tackle the big garden that around my house or my landscaping. That's a big project. And
it's a very big project because you have a very big yard.
I know, but I really want to do it myself. I think that's going to be a good calm space for me. So we'll see how that goes and see if I get overwhelmed.
So does do it yourself mean you actually do it, or does do it yourself mean you tell Dyson what to do and he?
No, Dyson's not interested in gardening. I want the shovels. He wants to hire. I want to get the shovels out there and actually do it. I might need some help getting the mounds for different things, but anyway.
It reminds me, my mom is an avid gardener. In fact, Kaylee Norton, who's a great local photographer, is actually filming or photographing every month different aspects of her garden. And we're putting together a coffee table book with that photography. And we're probably 10, 11 months into that project. But when I renovated my office here in Ponchatoula, it was a bit, 100-year-old house. And as those things go, they take twice as long and cost twice as much as you expect. And as a young lawyer with little money, we ran out of cash. So we get to the landscaping part and I have no money left. And so my mom and dad graciously volunteered to give me the landscaping as a gift, which some things they go down to Smith's nursery and buy, but mostly it's things they're transplanting from her yard. Right. But I remember my dad telling me the beauty of this was I would be here standing right here in my office working in the air condition while mom, dad, and my brother Bree are just sweating to death in July. And this guy drives up and he's a business owner from Hammond. And he's like, "Who's the boss?" And one of the folks helping points to my mom. And the guy was trying to hire them to do his business. And dad looks at Bree and he goes, "I quit. We're one-off job." So people have different attitudes about I'll do it. In mom's case, she was out there plugging away, but she definitely enlisted her husband and son and put them to work. But that's neat. So what's the game plan on that project? So that you aspire to do it. Is this something you're going to start with this spring? Have you given yourself a kind of completion deadline?
What's the game plan? And start starting around the back corner and just start working my way around and seeing how far I can get before I just die. It may be half done. I don't know.
Yeah. My mentor, practicing law, is Andrew Edwards, and he's got this great farm out in Robert that he lives on, and he always called it tractor therapy. He said, Parker, we have these stressful jobs, and sometimes we'll go many years. In his case, he's got a case that's still pending from 1983 where the clients haven't been paid, and they're still fighting to get those clients paid. So sometimes, in very rare occasions, it goes decades. He said, but he loved to go out and, whether it's planting a tree or more commonly cutting grass, you can see what you did. And, that patch that you cleared today, cut today, there's something to it, whereas a mortgage project may take, much longer, or, lawsuit or whatever in my case. So
hopefully not. Hopefully no lawsuits.
Well, that's it. So I say lawsuit. I was
okay.
My career.
I don't want any lawsuits in my job.
Yeah, no. Well, so we're talking about things that you like to do. Besides the gardening, what are your other interests? I mean, what are you into?
I used to read a good bit, but my eyes have gone pretty south. So until I am able to get my eyesight back, I gotta get away from my computer, I guess, a little bit to be able to see.
What kind of reading? What kind of stuff are you into?
Just like historical fiction and things like that. It's kind of my era. But
I love to read too, but it's with these kiddos now, it's getting
I
harder
know.
and harder. All that reading time is now like, this week it's Grumpy Monkey, next week it's the Hungry Caterpillar. It's like
Yeah, you
I'm
can only read that so much.
by the time you're done with that, the desire to dig into a novel like I would have 5-10 years ago is not there as much. Well, we've talked about obviously your family, your husband. What about your friends? I mean, who you grew up near here, you live here now. Like, who do you run with? What's your crew? What are y'all up to?
Well, we run with quite a bit of people. We let's see. Do you mean to start listing people?
Well, I mean, you don't have to. I'm just kind of curious to kind of, I'm always curious to see who hangs out with whom, here in Ponchatoula. Especially
So,
like in your case, you're a few years younger than I am, but we overlap a little bit,
okay, so we live right next to Kit and Nathan Triku. I'm sorry, Kit and Nathan Ferris.
Ferris, yeah, great
He's
folks.
Kit Triku, and the Trikus live next by us, so we see them probably the most because they're our kids play together, so that's good.
Yeah,
Mention,
that was my source on knowing that your baby girl is a good, sweet little girl, because Nathan
that's right.
coaches basketball with me. His boy Everett and my son Luke have their first game Saturday, so they're
Right.
gearing up. Great folks. Yeah, I went to school with Nathan, and Nathan, he was in my class, and Kit was a few years behind us, and her sister Joe, who's also your neighbor, I guess. Those are great
Yeah.
folks.
Yes, they are. They're all
Yeah,
great. And I've
cool.
already mentioned the Fishers, Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
We still hang out with her as much as we can. The time gets busy for all of us, but we see them, and the Jenkins, Bo and Kelly Jenkins. They are some
great folks.
friends of ours.
We tried to draft their son too, but we couldn't. Bo's so tall. I think word was out their kid would probably be a good basketball player. He got scooped up in the draft before
I'm sure.
Nathan and I could get him. But yeah, great Duke. He's a great little kid. So
Right.
cool. So y'all have a good little crew, it sounds like.
Yeah, and Gabby Savity and Jeremy Barnett, they're newly getting married coming up, so they're close friends, and so we're excited about that. And let's see, we have Susan Kleber. She works at Diller's. She runs Diller's pretty much, I think now. So she's
awesome.
a good friend with us.
That's a good friend to have.
Yeah. So Randy McDonald is her boyfriend, and who else do we have quite a few friends. There's a lot of people we hang out with.
It's a dangerous question when I ask this, because it's like the Oscar speech. You're gonna get home and realize you left somebody out of it, and blame me. If a friend's out there mad, I put her on the spot. She didn't know she was gonna have to.
I did mention Hillary Rushek at some point, right? I did.
You did, but in a professional concept. So if you want to,
we also are personal friends as well.
Okay, yeah, Hillary's really cool. Well, let me ask you this. You seem to have a real passion for your job. I mean, clearly it gets the juices flowing for you to think about finance and, the statistics and numbers that go into this. But what do if, for example, you didn't need to make a living, whether it would be the lottery or inheritance or any of those kind of wacky things, would you still come back and do this, the next week for a living, or would you be off, running a charity? What would you do if you didn't have to make a living?
I probably would not do. Well, let's say I would still
keeping it real, because I would keep it real. I love my clients, but if that happens for me, I'm going to refer them to a great lawyer up the street. But I'm not coming back
I definitely would send them to one of the people that I'm training now, and they would handle them, and I could help because I still have the knowledge of that. But I probably wouldn't be in the day-to-day of the mortgage world anymore. However, as we go back into after COVID times, the mortgage world should become less stressful, I should say, and we have more time to go back to normal. But if I won the lottery and I was given millions, I would probably move to the beach.
Which beach specifically? At that point, you got choices.
Well, I mean, I've never had millions to even contemplate that, to even know which beach I want to go to. But unfortunately,
it can happen in real estate. I mean, like Jeff Lesher is building 2 places on the beach at one time, so
I guess
it could happen from humble beginnings.
I would tell my friends, unless my friends were willing to come see me all the time, it would have to be close. So I'm not sure that I would go too far. and my family.
Mandy's chiming in and says go to Key West. So
Key West. Oh,
we're getting recommendations here. Yeah,
that's a great place too. We definitely visited there. I'm not sure I want to live there all the time, but you could definitely go see.
My colleague, a fellow attorney in my office, Megan Notriana, just got back from there. She did her honeymoon there a month or two ago. So right. Key West is a fun spot.
I want to travel for long periods of time. So go somewhere for like a full month and not have to be moving around a lot, because the traveling part's not fun, but being somewhere for a while would be fun.
Yeah. I've got a friend, a couple, Don and Edith in Houston, Texas. Don McClure is a lawyer out of Houston, and they have just done that. They have 2 kids they have more than 2 kids, but 2 that are still like teenagers or below. And they now live a month at a time at different spots in Europe. So,
wow.
And he still practices law. I don't know, how it all works tech wise and all, but they've done Paris, London. They're in, I think, Croatia right now. So, I mean, it can be done, and you don't have to win the lottery to do it. I don't know that Brandy and I would be brave enough to do that, but
I don't know about other countries. I don't know about.
But hey, I do have a bit of good news. Chris chimes in to say that you will inherit his vast fortune. So, I love to see a good sense of humor in the family. Well, this is a lot of fun. Mentioned
that's good to know. Can I have that in writing? Because I have siblings.
I think it's in writing here.
It's in writing, and you're doing this in front of a lawyer. So
not my area of law, but it's Facebook bonding. I don't know. We'll try. Facebook law wasn't on the books when I went to school in 1999, but we'll give it a run. So you mentioned, though, kind of post-COVID era, where you think that your industry is kind of, when we normalize, if you will. Yep. Where you've now been around the block in finance a while. So you've seen, for example, you mentioned when you and your husband bought your house in 2006, just sign a few docs, you're approved. Right. Woohoo! Then 2008, and subsequent, things hit. Where do you see the industry going in the future? What are your thoughts just about where things will be?
I was around for the 2008 meltdown, where they blamed the entire mortgage industry on the economy collapse, where people were inflating appraisals and such in other areas. So after that crash, where a lot of more banks went under, something similar to what happened with COVID did happen, and they just cut back on all of the unique programs, tightened up the credit scores, and we saw all of that happen with COVID. The same tightening happened, and so because we had just experienced that in 2008, we kind of knew what steps were going to happen. And now that they're doing some easement of that, we're seeing the same steps of getting the world back together, since we're I don't know what's happening with COVID. I might say we're recovering from it, but it seems that we might be moving forward with it as it is. So the financial worlds, they're loosening back up the credit score requirements, because they had tightened them. They are laying off the self-employed borrowers, because they like to pick on self-employed borrowers pretty heavily.
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah. So, but they're backing off some of those things, and we're seeing that happen. And they're now introducing more products again, like bank statement programs, and the eventually stated programs. Condos came back. So there's all those things that came back or coming back slowly that we're seeing turn back on.
So please continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay. As rates are stabilizing a little bit too. We're still seeing great rates, historically low rates. I don't know if you're going to see the ones anytime soon, but the rates are still very, very attractive.
Yeah. Well, that's something. Rates are going up, obviously, and folks like us who are looking to buy are in a race against the clock to try to get things done while you can. But, and I know you can't legally comment on rates and all that, but I guess what I'm saying here is rates could go up what seems like a ton right now, a whole percentage point. And if you look at it historically, I've only bought one other house, but it was 20 years ago. But rates went up a whole percent now. I'm still kicking 2002's butt when I bought my last house, right?
Definitely.
So, I think we get caught up in, if I'd have done this last year, I would have gotten that. But it's like, hey, let's not forget where we are in this long historical arc. Where,
that's right.
We mentioned Jeff a little while ago. I remember him telling me, like, his parents, I think, had to repair their house in the 80s when that flood hit. And man, interest rates were like 17% in 1983. Like, you know,
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
we're not, you know, the whole system could seemingly blow up and we wouldn't be back there. So it's
Yeah, I
a
don't
lot
think
to
that's
take
going to
in.
happen. There is fear of that from the consumers, but I don't think
Yeah,
that's going to
sure.
happen. And,
Yeah.
and things typically go up pretty slowly. I mean, it's not
Right.
like
Right.
overnight it's going to be 23%. So
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
we're safe from that.
Well, you have clearly, and I know you're kind enough earlier to mention it's a team process, and you credited your colleagues, and y'all work well together. But you have clearly built a really special practice where you are, a special, you know, team and product. And the reason I say that is, as we embark on our product, you know, I reached out to tons of friends I knew, real estate, you know, agents, real estate attorneys, you know, et cetera, to say, hey, look, I want to get a few quotes, you know, who should I talk to? And each time somebody would respond, I'd get a different list and the names would differ, but you were almost always on the list, no matter who the 2 or 3 other people were. So where I'm going with this very sincere praise is this, like, what advice would you give to a young, and this can apply to mortgage lenders and people who want to be a loan officer like you, or people that want to go into other similar, I mean, heck, young attorneys, young accountants, you know, people that are looking to build up successful reputations as bankers, engineers, lawyers, whatever. I mean, what advice would you give them based on kind of the secret of your success?
So you pretty much need to jump in and see what angle of mortgage industry you need to come in and see what world you want to go in. Do you want to go in the processing side, or do you want to go into originating? As far as young professionals, my advice is to try lots of things, because I did not realize that I was going to be in mortgage when I graduated. I really thought I was going to New York and to the stock market, so that did not happen at all. And I tried insurance, and I tried, you know, medical only claims adjusting for like workman's comp. Like I did a bunch of auto gap.
Right.
So I did a bunch of different things before I dabbled into some real estate stuff and decided mortgage was my route. So as a young professional, you really need to go get lots of jobs and see what they're like, and see if you like them or not. And as far as success, it's hard work and just honesty. I think hard work, and honesty, kindness.
You're spot on, and I love your advice about trying different things, because you know my experience was similar. I didn't think I'd be a small town personal injury lawyer. That never entered my future vision for my career when I was a young attorney.
Right.
But it wasn't until you try other things and see, oh, maybe it's not like it is on TV. You know, I remember in law school, our favorite show was Law and Order, and we would watch these shows about prosecutors going after criminals. And, my dad was the sheriff. So I was like, that's what I want to do. And then I got a little view of what that area of law was like. And I was like, no way, Jose, it's just not how I want to spend my day. But in my case, you really couldn't tell till you get there. Was it like that for you in insurance and in all these other things you described?
Definitely so. I'm thankful that the choice I made now, looking back, but definitely didn't. Yet you don't really know what it's like until you try it. So that's a must.
Yeah. Very, very good advice. I appreciate that. So look, I promised you I would get you home on time so you could see your lovely daughter and husband. So before we go, I mean, what else is on your mind? Is there anything on your mind, your heart, just anything at all you'd like to share with our viewers? Anything we haven't covered that maybe you expected that we would?
I just want to thank everybody for all of the love and support over the years. There's been so many of my people in the community who have trusted me with their the biggest purchase of their life usually. So I really appreciate it, and I thank y'all for that. And I felt honored to be a part of all of that with you, experience that with you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And, from the perspective of someone who's going through that process with you now, folks, I could tell you, if you give Amanda a call, she's going to be all the stuff she said, she lives it, right? She's going to be honest. She's going to be kind. She's going to be helpful. And she's going to, basically keep it real and set boundaries. I think the first time maybe I reached out to her, she was, I think, planning a birthday party, right? Or a Christmas party. And she was real. She said, hey, look, that's great. I'd love to help you. But right now, and so my point here is she was very professional in how she kind of let me know that now's not the moment we can talk about this. And she got back to me quick. So it wasn't like she put me off for a week or two. But, you know, my point here is just, folks, she's great to work with. She practices what she preaches. And so if you do find yourself in need of a mortgage loan, you know, she'd be a great person to call. So that being said, Amanda, for folks that would like to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch and with you and your team and get that process started?
Yep. So I am, my cell phone number is everywhere. If you call my office, it's going to ring my cell. So you should be able to get me at any time. You can call the bank. You can call me there. You can also go to amandagermany.com, and it's my website. And my cell number is 985-634-6470. So anybody can call me or text me anytime.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. To everybody who shared a comment, we really appreciate that. Ponchatoula Live will be back next week, same time and place. Thank you all. Have a great week.
Thank you.